Globe Life Field is one of the newest stadiums in Major League Baseball, but its story starts with a very familiar problem in Texas: heat. For years, the Texas Rangers played across the street at Globe Life Park in Arlington, a ballpark that opened in 1994 and had plenty of history behind it. It was the team's home during the prime years of Ivan Rodriguez, Juan Gonzalez, Michael Young, Adrian Beltre, and the back-to-back World Series runs in 2010 and 2011. But as much as fans loved parts of that stadium, there was always one major issue that never really went away. Summer baseball in Arlington could be brutal. The old ballpark was open air, and in North Texas, that meant July and August games could feel uncomfortable before the first pitch was even thrown. The Rangers were dealing with heat, attendance challenges, and a stadium that was still relatively young compared to many MLB parks, but already had one flaw that could not be fixed cheaply or easily. It had no roof. That is the biggest reason Globe Life Field exists. The Rangers and the city of Arlington announced their agreement for a new ballpark in May 2016. Later that year, Arlington voters approved public funding tied to the project, with the city's contribution capped at $500 million. The stadium was built through a public-private partnership between the Rangers and Arlington, with the total project cost listed by the team at approximately $1.2 billion. The new stadium would be built just south of Globe Life Park, on a 13-acre site that had previously been used for parking. So in a very literal way, the Rangers did not move far. They moved across the street. But the experience they were building was completely different. Groundbreaking took place on September 28, 2017, and construction was completed in less than 30 months. HKS, the Dallas-based architecture firm, served as architect, while Manhattan Construction Company was the general contractor. Both had a direct connection to the Rangers' previous home as well, since HKS had worked on the original ballpark in Arlington, and Manhattan had also served as general contractor for that stadium. The defining feature of Globe Life Field is the retractable roof. It covers 5.5 acres, weighs 24 million pounds, and is described by the Rangers as the largest single-panel operable roof in the world. The roof can open in about 12 minutes, and when it is closed, the building can keep the average temperature in the mid-70s. The Rangers were not trying to copy the old stadium. They were trying to solve the biggest problem that came with playing baseball outdoors in Arlington. From the outside, Globe Life Field was designed to still carry some of the old ballpark's identity. The brick arches along the north facade were meant to echo Globe Life Park, giving the new building a familiar Arlington look, even though the stadium itself is far more modern. Inside, the building is much larger than the old park, measuring about 1.8 million square feet, roughly 400,000 square feet more than Globe Life Park. The seating capacity is approximately 40,300, spread across 7 seating levels. The Rangers also emphasize bringing fans closer to the field. According to the team, the distance from the main concourse to the field is 160 feet, compared with 174 feet at Globe Life Park. And the upper concourse is also closer than it was at the previous stadium. The field itself uses a synthetic grass surface supplied by Shaw Sports Turf. That choice makes Globe Life Field different from many traditional MLB parks, but it also fits the building. With a roof, heavy event use, and a controlled indoor environment, the Rangers went with a system designed for durability, drainage, and year-round use. The infield and warning track still use clay surfaces, keeping the baseball look intact, even with the artificial playing surface. The stadium was supposed to open in a normal baseball world. That never happened. Globe Life Field arrived in 2020, right as the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the entire sports calendar. The Rangers were originally preparing for a much different opening, but the MLB season was delayed and shortened. Instead of a packed debut, the first regular season game at Globe Life Field came on July 24, 2020. With no fans in attendance. Texas beat the Colorado Rockies 1-0. Lance Lynn threw 6 scoreless innings, and Rougned Odor drove in the only run. That is a strange way for a billion-dollar stadium to begin. The building was ready, the team had moved in, and the roof had solved the weather issue. But the first season felt more like a television production than a true home opening. There were no packed concourses, no first real crowd reaction, and no normal rhythm to the season. Then, somehow, Globe Life Field became one of the most important stadiums in baseball before most Rangers fans had even experienced it properly. Because of the pandemic, MLB used neutral site bubbles for parts of the 2020 postseason. Globe Life Field hosted National League playoff games and then the entire 2020 World Series between the Los Angeles Dodgers and Tampa Bay Rays. It became the first neutral site World Series venue, and the Dodgers won the championship there on October 27, 2020, beating Tampa Bay 3-1 in Game 6. That gave Globe Life Field a bizarre first chapter. Before it had a true full-capacity Rangers season, it had already hosted a World Series clincher. Corey Seager was the World Series MVP for the Dodgers, and the stadium immediately had a place in MLB history, even if the home team had nothing to do with that postseason run. The Rangers finally got a more normal version of the ballpark experience in 2021, when fans were able to come back in large numbers. But the team itself was still rebuilding. The early years at Globe Life Field were not exactly glamorous from a Rangers perspective. Texas lost 102 games in 2021, then continued reshaping the roster with major free agent signings, including Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. That rebuild changed the stadium's story quickly. By 2023, Globe Life Field was no longer just the new stadium with the big roof. It became the home of the best season in Rangers history. Texas reached the postseason as a wildcard team, then used Globe Life Field for its first true home playoff games in the building. In the ALDS, the Rangers finished off a sweep of the 101-win Baltimore Orioles with a 7-1 win in Arlington, sending Texas to the American League Championship Series for the first time since 2011. The most famous Rangers game at Globe Life Field came a few weeks later. Game 1 of the 2023 World Series was played in Arlington against the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Rangers were down 2 runs in the 9th inning when Corey Seager hit a game-tying 2-run home run off Paul Sewald. Then, in the 11th inning, Adolis Garcia hit a walk-off home run to give Texas a 6-5 win. It was loud, dramatic, and exactly the kind of moment the building had been waiting for. The Rangers went on to win the 2023 World Series in 5 games, clinching the title on the road in Arizona. So Globe Life Field did not host the final out of the franchise's first championship, but it absolutely hosted one of the defining moments of the run. Seager's 9th inning homer and Garcia's walk-off gave the Rangers control of the series from the very first night. The stadium's big event resume kept growing in 2024, when Globe Life Field hosted the MLB All-Star Game. MLB awarded the event to the Rangers in November 2022, and the game was played during the ballpark's 5th season. The American League beat the National League 5-3, with Boston Red Sox outfielder Jarren Duran named MVP after hitting the go-ahead 2-run homer in the 5th inning. That All-Star Game also showed how quickly Globe Life Field had moved into MLB's main event rotation. In only a few years, the stadium hosted a neutral site World Series, the Rangers' first championship season, a World Series walk-off, and the Midsummer Classic. There are still debates about Globe Life Field's design. Some fans miss the open-air feel and classic look of the old ballpark. Others see the new stadium as more practical than romantic. But from the Rangers' perspective, the building did what it was designed to do. It gave the team climate control, modern premium spaces, year-round event potential, and a more comfortable game day experience in one of the hottest MLB markets. Globe Life Field may not have the age or nostalgia of places like Fenway Park, Wrigley Field, or Dodger Stadium. It is a different kind of MLB ballpark. Its identity is tied to practicality, controlled conditions, and modern stadium economics. But in a very short time, it has already collected moments that many stadiums wait decades to get. It opened during one of the strangest seasons baseball has ever seen. It hosted a World Series before most of its own fans could properly enter the building. Then, a few years later, it became the home of the first Texas Rangers championship team. For a stadium that is still young, Globe Life Field already has a lot of history attached to it. And unlike Globe Life Park, this one was built with the Texas summer in mind from day one.